Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the Cardinal lineup, loves crushing meatballs. My name's Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Big meatball guy over here. Big meatball guy.
I know, I can tell. And this week on the show, we will be recapping the first week of the 2023 MLB season and taking a look at what we can expect in the next week. If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Wow, we did it.
Wow.
We have real baseball to talk about, Hambone.
It's happening. It's happening right now.
It is. There's we're recording Wednesday. There is a Cardinal game happening right now. We don't really want to talk about the current results of that game, but it's just good that there's baseball. But before we get into real baseball, I have some fake baseball to talk to you about. So I mentioned it on the show a few weeks ago that some friends of mine for a bachelor party had rented out a stadium, an independent league stadium here outside of St. Louis. And we were going to go and do, batting practice, shag fly balls, just have fun on a professionally kept field. Unfortunately, Friday, there was a massive storm that came through St. Louis. And even though it was frustratingly beautiful at our reservation time, the storm still resulted in the session being canceled, which was a huge bummer. I was expecting to, I was probably going to hit 10 or 15 home runs, no big deal. Lay out for a few diving catches, probably pump a few fastballs. So, my real breakout, I think there were going to be some scouts in the audience. So really my chance to really break out of this mundane existence and, begin my tour de force in the MLB, it stalled. But instead of
it's inevitable. It's coming.
It is coming. I think like mid-late 30s is usually when people really hit their athletic stride. And
you're peaking.
I'm peaking. So
cool.
we instead went and rented out one of those. It's a Top Golf suite. Which are you familiar with this? It's not.
I mean, I know what Top Golf is, and I know what a suite is. I imagine it's a private area at a Top Golf.
Not quite. So this is it was inside of a bar.
Is it Top Golf made out of candy?
Close.
Or cake, maybe?
Okay. Yeah. Yes, it was a giant cake. No, it was so it was inside of a bar. It was basically one of those things where they have like a big screen that has cameras around it and sensors on the screen.
Like a simulator. Yeah.
A simulator.
Okay. Yeah.
And it had a whole bunch of different sports. The main one people were playing was like a golfing game, a Top Golf style game.
Sure.
It's a real golf ball, real golf club. You hit the ball, hits the screen, and it converts it into like a digital representation. You see how far you hit the ball and stuff like
ones
that.
and zeros, baby. I get it.
Zeros. Yeah. It was fun. It was anticlimactic compared to what we were planning, but still getting, your friends together was a good time.
Sure.
But the only reason I bring all this up is that there was one of the games was a pitching game. And so, I can't vouch for the accuracy of these cameras or the sensors, but Ben, how fast do you think I threw a fastball at we'll call it 9 p.m. A few IPAs into the evening.
Yeah.
How fast?
Okay.
And no warm up, no stretching, no preparation.
Yeah.
How fast?
So you got a couple. Yeah, you got a couple of IPAs in you. I've seen your mechanics; they're trash.
Wow.
And how were you trying as hard as you could?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say you maxed out at 52 miles per hour.
Well, you're pretty close.
Yeah.
But Ben, I I think I hit 45. So
Oh, no. What?
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was doing better than that, but I have no frame of reference. And all I can go off of is what was on the screen.
Wow. I
I'd
thought
like
it. Wow.
Yeah, well, I
Wow.
appreciate that you thought I could get into the 50s, and I think I could in a better situation. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, damn."
Yikes.
Yep.
Well,
Best part
I
is
appreciate your honesty.
my shoulder was very sore the next day.
God.
I'd also
What?
help someone I'd also help someone move earlier in the day.
Yeah, there's a lot
And
of throwing involved in that, so
it's
I understand.
a lot of cranking and bending and awkward,
Sure.
So, anyway, hey, if you're out there and you think you can beat me, let's see it. All right, I want to see some radar guns. At least I'm out there. I'm in the game. What are you doing? Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything to compare it to that is like of this decade, so I won't talk too much, because I don't even know where I would go to get this tested out to see if I beat you. But that being said, I would bet all of the money in my checking account that I can throw harder than that. So you
I
suck.
I would also bet that you can throw harder than that. You've got like 6 inches and like 40 pounds on me, so I'd
Also,
be
just
very.
that natural
Mhm.
athlete. I just
Oh yeah,
move gracefully,
yeah, yeah. You're like a gazelle. Um, so
Faster though, faster than a
yeah,
gazelle.
yeah, you're like a fast gazelle. Yeah, known for their slowness. So,
Right.
also important in throwing a ball,
Yes.
speed. So that was fun,
Wow.
and
Yeah, you really suck. That's good to know. I
yeah,
appreciate you sharing that.
yeah. So, but it's still spring. I think by get me into summer, once I've really gotten in my reps, put in my innings,
Yeah.
I think I
Is
can
there a
hit that.
video of this?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the games is that so next week I am traveling to Denver to go to all three Cardinal games with Ben here, which
Wow.
I'm super excited about. I don't do this every year, but most years since you have moved out to Denver, or at least more than half of the year since you've moved out to
Yeah.
Denver, I've been able to come out and go to all the games. There's usually at least one series in Colorado for the Cardinals.
Right.
And so this year it is the fourth series of the year. So
Yeah, I know.
uh
Kind of disappointing on the
yeah,
timing, but I guess we'll take what we got. Weather is supposed to be fine, which is always a question this early in Colorado.
yeah.
But no, we'll have a great time. I'll show you around, show you my old haunts.
Hmm.
And the good news is it's going to be a much different level of competition for our Cardinals than the Jays and the Braves
Yeah.
and Milwaukee. So maybe they'll win.
Hey, maybe it should be better for the Cardinals, and we'll talk about these the Blue Jays and Brave series here in a moment. But the
So
last thing I want to say before we get into that is that we're going to be recording also in person next week, which is something we haven't done for like
ever?
well, when the show first started back in 2013, when we did our first run of it, when
Yeah.
you lived in the apartment right down the street from me,
Oh yeah, we
I'd
recorded in
I'd
our
grab
my
my
family room. Yeah,
I'd grab my microphones, my two microphone stands, and I'd walk down to your apartment and we would record in the same room. The first
yeah,
for the first like year, I think, or so of the show, we did it that way. And then you moved and we moved to our virtual process that we do now. So I don't really know how we're gonna do it yet, from a sound and just like technical standpoint, but we'll figure it out. So if next week, if it's
Yeah.
a little weirder, that's why. And also, I can jump across the table and clothesline Ben next time
Yeah.
he
Great.
insults my velocity.
I'm wondering, there is a fast pitch game at Coors Field. I think some great content for the pod would be to us both participate in the game, even though I think it's like 20 bucks a
I think,
pitch. I
yeah.
think we'll have to do that, and we'll maybe post the results online unless they're horribly embarrassing.
I think we absolutely have to do it, even more so
Okay.
if it's absolutely embarrassing.
Okay.
Why do you think I brought this story up? So,
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna dedicate myself to. I'm gonna have a couple of IPAs, and then we'll butt the line, get all the children out of the way for the fast
get
pitch,
out of here.
and
Get
Nate'll
out of
film
here.
it. We'll get this going for sure.
Yeah, I think we both should do it. I mean, we're gonna be at the stadium 3 days in a row. We'll have
Yeah.
plenty of time to get
Yeah.
in there and do that. Yeah, that's a great idea. All right. Uh, Big competition here. See, does it measure vertical movement? I've been working on
Yeah.
my curve.
Yeah. I'll see if they. I'll text them, see if they got Statcast there. I'm gonna guess no, but maybe.
It's all in the wrist, my dear boy. All right, so let's talk about uh
Dumbass.
all right, we got a lot to talk about here, Ben.
Yeah.
Uh, let's just get into it. This is we've had 5 games and
Wow.
we've got some controversy that I
Yeah.
kind of hate that I think even by time this episode comes out, I'm hoping that this conversation has died down a little bit, but it's all anyone is talking about right now. So let's just jump into it. If you're unfamiliar, in the game on Tuesday, there were all sorts of mistakes and base running, gaffes. But notably, there was a moment where Tyler O'Neill was thrown out at home on a single. He was running from second, and he got thrown out by, I don't know, 5 feet, right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't particularly close. It was a pretty surprising moment. You don't see guys, especially someone like O'Neill, get thrown out like that far away from home plate
Yeah.
very often. And, but I don't know. I didn't think too much of it in the moment. It was disappointing, but I didn't read any like underlying issues in it other than I think the send at third was, a problem. But anyway, uh later that night, Ali Marmol basically publicly questions Tyler O'Neill's hustle, his
Yeah.
willingness to give it all in this play. And then Tyler O'Neill has since come out saying like this shouldn't have been handled.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, like I give it my all the time. This should have
Yeah.
been handled behind closed doors. And here we are. This is not the first time we've seen Ollie Marmol question a player in the media. At times he gets praise for that, for his no nonsense, tell the press the way it is. But you don't. This one's a little bit different because the player is actually pushing back also publicly. So I don't know. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's so many thoughts wrapped up into this. So, number one, I'll say don't run on Ronald Acuna. He has one of the best arms we've ever seen, and that ball was not hit very deep. Also, you would have been in a great situation as far as like bases loaded in the ninth inning and potential to add on more. I think that Tyler O'Neill's secondary lead was a little bit weak after the pit or once the pitcher got in motion. I think that was part of the problem. I think Pop Warner's send was part of the problem. I also think that like clearly this is a conversation that's going on internally. Clearly, Tyler O'Neill's goal is to play 150 games this year and not get mired by injuries. And I think a way to make sure that that doesn't happen is that you don't get a lower half injury in game 5 when it's cold outside, running as hard as you can around the bases. Like this is a plan. that he is in league with doctors, with the Cardinals staff. Pop Warner should be aware of this. Pop Warner should be able to make the calculus. Oh, it's early. Oh, Tyler's trying to stay healthy. That ball wasn't hit very far. And Ronald Acuna literally has the strongest arm of any outfielder in baseball. We looked it up on StatCast before we got on the record today. And his average throw speed is like 97 miles per hour, which puts him one or two
Yeah,
in
he good.
baseball. So, yeah, all those things added up, it was a bad send. I think, with Ali Marmol, we get a lot more transparency than we have ever gotten, at least in our baseball lives, as far as the manager speaking to the media. And I think that this is probably why most people don't speak to the media so freely, is because Jimmy the Cat Hayes and every other reporter, a dummy like us, sinks their teeth into something like this. And my 2 cents is that this is really a non-story. I
Yeah.
think that there's no deep-seated issue in between Marmol and O'Neill. O'Neill is out. He's not playing today, scheduled day off. I'm not worried about any of this. I think that this is a non-issue that was probably squashed last night over an ice cold Budweiser. By the way, why I was talking, Jordan Walker just hit his first big league home run. So shout out to
Nice.
Jaywalk during this. But
Hell yeah.
if you want to exactly timestamp when we're recording this, that'll give you the option to do that. Bottom of the 7th inning, go Jaywalk, line drive. But really, I don't think this is that big of a deal. Tyler O'Neill is the center fielder for the Cardinals. He is highly valuable. I think I said last week I project him to be the most valuable position player on the club. I think the right thing to do is to move on. Let's keep Tyler healthy. Pop Warner, don't run on Ronald Acuna. I truly think that this would be a non-conversation if almost any other player in baseball was playing right field. But it wasn't. So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to agree. All of these things blow up way more than what's actually happening in the locker room. It's a little surprising for Tyler O'Neill to even bother to push back, but he's got his own, um, intense and perception on the situation. But likely, this will all be done in a day or two. And even hopefully by the time you're listening to this, it's old news. But we felt like we had to talk about it because it's
Yeah.
like everywhere right now.
And I think my read is like everything you just said, plus like they didn't look good in that game. They didn't look good in the game before. The pitching hasn't been there. I think that we got a little emotional. People
Yeah.
are a little hot and bothered because of the way that the team is playing in a very minute window, right? Like in the moment, obviously Marmol wants that game. So I think that's really what it was. He's locked in. He's fiery, and I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good to know what they're thinking.
I was thinking there that like the manager is almost more of a like political position
Yeah,
nowadays. It's a people management position, and Ali Marmol is an incredibly smart guy, and we don't know what his intent was in that statement. He's also a very candid and, at times emotional guy. It may have been truly just he's saying exactly what he's feeling and he was sharing it publicly. Could be, that there's some other motives here around
yeah,
motivating the rest of the team. And, maybe it wasn't the best thing to make an example of, but he felt the need to make an example of a moment and to point out to his team that he's not afraid to call these sorts of things out. And, it may be just that. So who knows?
Well, we can stop talking about this, and I just want to be clear. Like, it's also possible for Ali to be mad, Tyler O'Neill to be mad. They both say that they're mad. They go have an argument that's loud and demonstrative in the clubhouse, and then move on and be fine. Like,
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
it's
It's
not,
actually pretty normal in sports. It's
right.
it's often a bunch of meatheads all yelling at each other. So
Jonathan Papelbon once choked out Bryce Harper in the dugout on camera, and they played together the next day. It's fine.
yeah, yeah,
Although
it'll be fine.
Jonathan Papelbon, obviously, like the worst. Anyways,
Yeah. So let's move on. There's the first week of games has been incredibly I think demonstrative of what we were expecting this year to look like. We're getting it all, right? Let's start
yeah,
though, I think, with the good. Something I hinted at with the opener, the Cardinal offense. You and I
yeah,
and pretty much everybody in baseball have been very high on this Cardinal lineup, and I think despite the outcomes of some of these games, I think that perception and those predictions have been justified early, and
yeah,
in some ways, in ways that we weren't even expecting.
yeah, yeah. I think well, I tweeted a tort earlier this morning. Cardinals are leading baseball in average on base percentage, and they have the lowest K rate in the big leagues right now as a team.
Yeah,
So the offense is showing up. Um, Also, like we could talk how bad the pitching is right now, but every year when players come out of spring training, the pitching is behind the hitting. I think that that's even more true this year because of the WBC, the level of competition, the way the players came out of spring. Everyone was locked in. Not to mention, like hyper specific to Cardinals camp, unless your name is Arenado, Goldschmidt, or Wilson Contreras, you were pretty much fighting for your life. Like these guys, this was as hard fought as a spring training. So it makes sense to me that the hitting is way ahead of the pitching to start off. That being said, I think when you look at this offense, the fact that we're seeing huge contributions from Gorman and Donovan within the first week, showing up with power, showing up with big, grindy at bats, especially Nolan Gorman showing this patience, like I'm excited about this team offensively right now.
yeah. The Gorman. I mean, that's so much fun, right? We had all the off season talk about the swing adjustments. Can he handle the high heat? Can he bring that into majors? Can we see that against good pitching? And so far, incredibly small sample size, but it sure looks like the Gorman breakout is happening. My Gormania bin has been flaring dramatically. I've applied
Yeah.
all the creams, I've got all the ointments, the injectables, but the Gormania is not calming. It's raging, and it's kind of felt good.
Oh
And then
God.
Brendan Donovan, uh, already half his home run total from last year. If he can keep that power up, even like half of what it's looked like in this first
Yeah.
half of the first week of the season, he's a totally new player. I've been seeing some comps to Matt Carpenter's development and growth
Yeah.
in the majors, and that's obviously incredibly exciting thinking about what Carpenter was. I think obviously projecting anyone to be near what Matt Carpenter was is like an unfair projection, but it's fun to think about, and you can see some of the um there are some parallels here in their play
Yeah.
style and in the way that they approach the game. So yeah, those two have been incredibly exciting.
And with that, I think that's a great comparison. I think that's a lot of fun. I'm going to dream on that for sure. But we're also seeing Brendan Donovan has yet to walk this year. Now, if you are reducing your walk rate to increase your power, obviously, as long as that power stays up, that is a fine and dandy adjustment. That like we'll
Right.
take that all day. Obviously, Matt Carpenter did it for a reason. Almost won an MVP once doing that. But it's a different player. It's a different look. The good thing is that he maintains his hyper flexibility on the field. And if you have a guy that can hit 25 bombs, walk a little bit, and play all over the field, that is super duper valuable,
Yeah.
especially to how the Cardinals are configured right now. So all here for it. Um, Curious to see how it goes on though, because he was he was the thorn in the side. He was so great at extending at bats and getting those walks last year. We'll see how far away from that he's moved. Like we've said, you all know this. It's super early. It's hard to really tell,
Yeah.
but we'll find out.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what do you want the 390, 400 OBP and no power, or like a 330 and a bunch of power, or a 320?
Right.
That'd be a pretty dramatic swing for him, but it is kind of crazy. He hasn't drawn a walk yet. So, who else? I think we got to talk about Jordan Walker. You already mentioned he's now hit his first home run, which is going to that the at bats are low enough now that that's probably going to make some pretty big differences to what his overall numbers look like this early in the season. But even still, I think early takeaways is that there's a reason this guy is on the major league roster, and he hit ball hard.
Yeah. I mean, every single at bat, it's 107 exit velo, 111 exit velo, 105 exit velo, pulling up the home run he just hit while we're recording. Only a paltry 104.2 miles per hour, 383 feet. But yeah, I mean, he looks a little bit, other than that home run, he looks a little bit like he's jumping at the ball, kind of getting a little too excited. And but when you see exit velos like that, even if the launch angle isn't perfect, you'll absolutely take that. He'll get more comfortable. He'll start launching the ball like we just saw 5 minutes ago. And I think he looks every bit a major leaguer to me, in the field, at the plate, so on and so forth. He had a
Yeah.
throw from right field that was clocked in at around 99, 100 miles per hour. I think the one thing, I guess if I had to sit here and really pick on Jordan Walker to be like super nitpicky, like, hey kid, what are you doing? It's just like, hit the cutoff man, throw to second base from the outfield. You got a cannon for an arm, but let's, like,
Yeah.
play a
Still
little more conservatively. Yeah.
stick with the
Um,
fundamental. Yeah.
yeah. But that's like, everything else I'm
Yeah.
fine with. The process is great. The results are coming. I think he has a 6-game hit streak to start the to start. What else do you want?
Yeah, I there's a good tweet. This is from Eric Cross. So he writes, Jordan Walker, the good and the bad so far. So this is before today's game, so some of this would change. But the good, he's tied for first in 100-mile-per-hour batted ball events with 10. 55% of his batted ball events have been 100 miles per hour plus. He's tied for fifth in 105-mile-per-hour batted ball events, or 105-mile plus, and 33% of his batted ball events have been 105 miles or higher. And then, so basically, he's every time he hits the ball, every time he has a batted ball event, it's going for 100 to 105 or more miles per hour, and that is really, really high up in league standings. But the bad, none of those batted ball events have been a barrel. So,
Yeah.
and it has a launch angle of negative 5.9 degrees, which those two and two go together. If you barrel the ball, you're normally hitting it at least flat, if not up. So
Right.
he's hitting it on a downward trajectory, but he's hitting it so hard that it's often finding a hole and getting through. We saw several of his hits so far have been like 113-mile-per-hour ground balls
Yeah.
that no one has a shot at making. So today he had his first home run, which is obviously going to be a better launch angle. But I think that's right to what you're saying. He's sort of
Yeah.
jumping at the balls. He's ahead of it, but he swings so hard that even his non-barrels are 100 miles per hour. It's got to be when he starts barreling the ball consistently, that's when it's like, look out, everybody.
I mean,
Like
we
the third
might see a
baseman's going to
120.
die.
We
Yeah.
might see a 120 from Jordan Walker this season.
Yeah.
Which is something that, like, O'Neal Cruz, Giancarlo Stanton, and Aaron Judge do, and like no one else. And I know we're talking a lot about exit velo right now, and I think the reason that I don't need to explain this to you, Nate, but just to kind of The reason I find exit velo so interesting, especially with a young Jordan Walker, is as we've talked about, like you can't fake that. You can't luck into hitting the ball 112 miles per hour. That's a real, like, measured thing. And all he needs to do, be a little bit more patient, find his pitch a little bit better, get under the ball. Like, we're talking a quarter of an inch, and those
Yeah.
balls are going to start to launch, and people in the bleachers are going to have to start, like, yeah, bringing safety equipment to baseball
Yeah.
games. But
Well,
anyways, very
that's what
excited.
they mean when they say look at underlying numbers. Good process results in good outcomes, even if not every outcome is good. So you look at those process numbers like exit velo, and you trust that good things will follow. And we've seen it today. Speaking of good process and good things following, Alec Burleson, who has suddenly found himself in the 2-hole very often, which is
Yeah.
an interesting decision, but he's had a couple big games and has also been hitting the ball really hard, which has been really nice. And so we've got Gorman hitting the ball hard. We've got Brendan Donovan hitting the ball hard. You've got Burleson and Walker. We haven't even talked about Goldie and Arenado, who are both having great starts to the season. Like, there's a reason why the team is leading the league in a ton of offensive stats, as Ben said at the
Yeah.
beginning. And I guess if you want to touch on Wilson Contreras as well, who we had a brief scare when,
Ooh.
for, he also almost became a victim of Jordan Hicks. If you remember, Yachty spent some time in the hospital because of a fastball from Jordan Hicks. Happened to Wilson as well, but fortunately, major injury was avoided. But anyway, what have been your early takeaways from Wilson Contreras?
Yeah, I think first off, toughness, 103-mile-an-hour sinker off the kneecap, and he
Off
came
the
back
knee.
basically right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't want to be too much of a homer, but I thought he's looked absolutely fantastic. I think he's looked great behind the dish, like unnoticeable. He threw out Acuna the first day, the first matchup against the Braves, who is clearly one of the best base stealers in baseball. So he's looked great from a defensive standpoint, better than I thought. I think he's looked way more quiet behind the plate than I had expected. So we'll obviously follow that and see what happens as the season goes on, and if he can maintain that. But I would say for me, my favorite thing about watching him so far, and maybe I knew this, maybe I didn't know this really, but is that he kind of has this all fields approach with serious power. And it's like line to line. We haven't seen him
Yeah.
pull a ball super, super well yet, but the fact that he is able to go up the middle and like right center, right field with like big time power, like home runish type power, has been a lot of fun. That plays super well for this team. He's done nothing but hit the ball hard everywhere and look great. I've been really impressed. Happy to have Willie.
Yeah, same. So last couple touches on the offense, I think, and then we'll talk about the pitching. So Newt Bar, everyone's favorite, the star of the offseason, jams his thumb in the opening day, hits the IL, and the Cardinals get to test the depth that we've been talking about immediately with Juan Yepez. Remember, we say Yepez here. Yepez is called back up and has been getting a little bit of action, got a couple hits, looking good. So bummer for Newt Bar, but this is gonna happen, right? We're gonna probably have this outfield roulette all season, whether it's injury or ineffectiveness or whatever. We'll probably be seeing different guys uh, all throughout the season. So let's talk about the pitching.
Yeah.
How do you want to start this, Ben?
I don't know. I guess like there's not a lot of good to talk about. So I think we just need to dive into it. And I think the best example of what is going on with the Cardinals pitching right now is probably Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty had a really weird start. 5 no-hit innings. I wish I could stop it there. But it was
Let's just say
also
what a start. 5 no-hit innings. Jack's
5
back,
no-hit innings.
baby. It's
Jack's back,
done.
baby. Uh he threw about 50% ball strikes on that, which is obviously bad. He had 7 walks against 4 strikeouts. He was all over the place. He was all over the place with his location. He was all over the place with every pitch that he throws. The speed on his fastball was jumping up and down. He did not have it. It's kind of amazing that he did not give up a hit. And I think it was only because of how wild he was. People weren't wanting to swing at what he was bringing. I would say on the scale, I'm pretty worried about Jack right now after that start, um, because of the dipping velo, because of the not being in control. And, Ali came out and said after the game, his timing isn't there, his body isn't synced up, so on and so forth. Okay, yeah, like everyone else is looking better. Well, everyone else other than Jordan Hicks is looking better than that right now. I'm a little bit worried. I'm like a 4 or a 5. I'm still not freaking out about Jack because like if 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 you're absolutely not going to have anything to bring to the table and you can still go 5 innings and no hit, even though it was pure chaos, like that's not the worst possible outcome. He could have been destroyed ball after ball going over the wall. So I don't know really
Yeah.
where to come. Other than I am a little more worried than I was last week about Jack Flaherty.
To me, in some ways, we saw both ends of the variance spectrum on and BABIP from the opening day Michaelis game to the Jack Flaherty game, where on opening day Michaelis was pitching pretty well and just could not catch a break when it came to the placement of the ball. I mean, it was there like 3 singles in a row that had an EV of 70 miles per hour or below.
Yeah.
Just like everything was finding the exact place to go, exact hole, falling right in between guys. And the Blue Jays put up 10 runs. And then the next day, you've got the Flaherty start, and he is all over the place, and the Blue Jays cannot string together a hit, and somehow they walk 10 times in that game and
Yeah.
score what was like 1 run or whatever. There were a few, like Flaherty had a few sliders that did look good every once in a while. He was painting the corner every once in a while, which made me think that was part of his problem, is that he was trying to be too particular, too perfect with his pitches and just overcooking them, or I don't know. He
Yeah.
was all over the place, obviously, and I share your concern.
Yeah, it's when Jack had that great second half in 2019, what he was doing was, well, first off, he had his stuff look great, and he was filling up the zone, and he was challenging guys with fastballs, sliders, and everything else in the zone with good sequencing. You didn't know what he was going to throw and what count. And yeah, he looked off balance. He looked timid. It just wasn't what you expect. And you kind of need your best guy to make it work a little bit better when he doesn't have his best stuff. I almost would have rather him given up a couple of hits and a couple of runs and stayed in the zone and stayed relevant in every at bat than what we saw, even though you get the win. But looking
Right.
at Jack for 2023, like it, it was just
That
one of the
is
weirdest starts I can really think of, honestly.
It made me think of the Edwin Jackson no-hitter from I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 10 years ago, where he was like 160 pitches, like 8
Yeah.
or 9 walks, but a no-hitter also. So I think if it were later in the season and Flaherty had less of an injury concern, you could see Marmol just being like, all right, let him stay out there, why not? We'll see how
Yeah.
long this can go. But it was probably the best thing to get him out of there. But yeah, I mean, that performance, I think, while the most bizarre of the week, was really reflective, I think, of what we've seen for the first run through the rotation now, which is no quality starts, barely making it, halfway into the game, usually leading to the team being behind. Now to be fair, Braves and Blue Jays, I think when this season's all said and done, very likely two top five offenses. So
Yeah.
really, really challenging lineups for everyone's first start of the season. Um, I don't want to make excuses, but I do think that has to be considered when you look like
Yeah.
these are two of the best teams in baseball, at least especially on the offensive side. So it was going to be a challenge. So challenge, met and failed, but at least, they weren't getting beat up by like the Pirates or
Yeah.
anything like that. Um, but it's
It
exactly what we knew going in, right? Is that this
yeah.
rotation is on razor's edge. They're going to have to be perfect,
They
game in and game out.
when Miles misses a ball middle, he doesn't have the stuff to get away with it from time to time. It's going to get clobbered almost every time. And the same is true for Montgomery. The same is true for Steven Matz, and Jack when he's not going well. So yeah, it's just
Yeah,
kind of the way it is right now.
I thought Matt's. Again, while the results were not great, I was overall happy with Matz's game.
Yeah.
I think he's someone. I think he's a real crucial part of. Well, every starter is pretty crucial
Yeah.
considering the rotation, but like he's the real unknown to me. And uh, he struck out Matt Olson 3 times in a row. That's
Yeah.
a pretty good run.
He really only had a couple of bad pitches that got hit
Yeah,
out. And honest, one of them wasn't even that bad. He threw it inside, and Arcia was sitting on it, and just, I mean, I'd feel comfortable throwing inside to Arcia if I was Steven
yeah,
Matson, but he was just ready for it, and that's just how baseball goes sometimes. So yeah, I agree though. His stuff looked good. It was lively, and he only got into a little bit of trouble. And first start after a weird season last year. I'm not worried about him.
yeah.
And I'm encouraged by what I saw. I agree with you.
Yeah. From the bullpen side, again, a pretty good mix. Um, I think the big story, you mentioned him already, Jordan Hicks. When we went on C70 show, we talked for a while about Jordan Hicks and what we can expect from him this year. And there was a lot of concern and hesitation expressed. And we're seeing that already. Besides almost breaking our brand new catcher, he's been all over the place. I saw someone online say he might throw the most hittable 100-mile-per-hour fastball in baseball, and it certainly felt that way after this week.
It boggles the mind. Um, Missing location is obviously a huge part of that. How many times have we heard old timey baseball players say you could throw it 120 and a good hitter will time it up eventually? The 5 walks and 3 1/3 innings is really scary. And the fact that he's just getting pummeled. Yeah, it's not a great look. His ERA is currently sitting at 13.5. He's not getting strikeouts. He's walking a bunch. It's really early, but this is exactly what we saw in spring training. I think I'm he's probably who I'm most panicked about just because he is most likely to still get high leverage innings while being ineffective. And I just don't know what to do. He just can't find the strike zone. What is the advice? What is the change here? Trust your stuff, fill up the zone. Like he's hearing that. He knows that's what he's supposed to do. He just can't do it. Um, he seems unwilling to take anything off of his fastball to stay in the zone a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I think what needs to happen is he needs to be pulled from the higher leverage situations until he can find that strike zone.
Yeah.
And someone like Zach Thompson, who has looked great out of the bullpen so far,
Yeah.
and maybe he already has. We've already been seeing him go into later innings, but I think Zach Thompson, Gallegos, Helsley right now are your three best relievers. And I know we want Zach Thompson as more of a long man, but you got to get those outs in those close games. And if that means you're only using Zach Thompson for an inning, that's fine. But Hicks right now is looking like the type of guy who comes in and gives up 3, 4, 5 runs in an inning, and
Yeah.
can't have that when you're already, maybe giving up 3, 4, 5 from your starters.
Yeah. And hey, Drew Verhagen has been good
What is
in the
that?
same
I
amount of
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of strikeouts already. He's only got 3 1/3, just like Hicks, but he's yet to give up a run. He's looked solid. I don't know. Maybe this is how the season works out. Maybe it is a rotating door in the bullpen this year. I think Gallegos not being fully ready to go with the lower back tightness really exposed some parts of the bullpen this week. But
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, that's how most people's bullpens are. You'll have a couple of guys going
Right.
hot. You'll have hopefully 2 or 3 real true back end guys. And of course, if your second best reliever is not healthy, it's gonna show some warts.
Right.
Especially like you already mentioned this, but when you're playing two of the top 5 offenses in baseball over a week period, with it still being the first week of baseball, like, yeah, it's going to expose some warts. But like I said, Hicks is the only one I'm really like,
Yeah.
good. What do we do here?
Yeah. Funnily enough, I wonder if they've like I can't imagine it's planned this way, but Zach Thompson also has 3 1/3 innings pitched. So all these guys have the exact same amount. And he's currently rocking an FIP of 1.13.
Yeah, that's good. We
So
like that.
yeah. Yeah. So I think the bullpen is good, will be good, but there's a lot still being sorted and settled. So
How
yeah.
about this really quick? Miles Michaelis, on that first start, you were talking about how he was just getting dinked and dunked. He has an FIP from that start of 0.53 and an ERA of 13.50.
Yeah. I thought he looked
So
good. That was one of the I mean, objectively, like, what a fun opening day,
yeah,
Like, that
great
was
game.
such a great game. It had everything you would want other than, the Cardinals getting
The L,
outs.
yeah, right,
But even
yeah,
that, it was like, man, like, I didn't feel bad about any Cardinal pitcher from that game,
yeah,
and then they win the next 2 games, and you're like, "Damn, we almost like very well could have swept the Blue Jays to open this season." And then now we can confirm that the Cardinals have been swept by the Braves. So of course everyone's feeling like shit now, but this was this was a really interesting first week of games, and we're going to talk about who the Cardinals are playing in the next week here in a moment. But anything else you want to talk about from this week before we move on?
No, just I'm hopeful as they go into the next week that the pitching will settle down a little bit. It's really hard to judge a team on a pitching staff's first go around in the
Yeah.
order. But it, being a weekly podcast, it's easy to overreact, and we might as well, right?
That's what we do here. So,
Yeah.
well, so we're gonna break down the upcoming series and talk about some stuff from around the league. But before we do that, we want to remind everybody that this show is fan supported, listener supported on patreon.com/, talking about birds. If you enjoy the show, want to support its creation, consider subscribing. We have a bunch of different tiers. Anyone who subscribes now gets access to our private Discord server. We call it the Bird Scored. We're having a great time in there. It's a great place to chat with other Cardinal fans and kind of get a break from the noise of all the other social media. I like to think we're a pretty positive environment. So if you are sick of everybody just losing their minds on social media about any individual moment, come and hang out with us. We're having a good time in there.
It's a
Um,
much more measured take overall, I would say.
yes, yes. Uh, we use the money from the Patreon to support the show, cover our costs for hosting and whatnot. And hey, if you are looking at your podcast player and you see our new art, we were able to use some of the funds that we've made from this show to commission an artist to create for us a new logo. So, we're taking the money and putting it back into the show. So if you like it, we would really appreciate anyone who subscribes. And thank you to our to our patrons. Um, Ben, where can people find us online?
Yeah, of course. You can follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. Follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. Of course, you can email us any questions, thoughts, musings. You can tell us that we don't look good in our new art, or whatever opinions you might have, to talkaboutbirds at gmail.com. We got a TikTok. I've been talking about it. It's huge. People love it. Check us out on TikTok. If you prefer to listen to us on Spotify, go to Spotify. We're also there. But most excitingly, if you don't want to remember all of that crap, or if as soon as I said it, it falls out of your brain, you could just go to talkingaboutbirds.com and find all the
Wow.
socials. You can find our voices. Maybe we'll have some pictures of us, all that new art, everything. Again, that's talkaboutbirds.com.
Nope.
Check us out.
Nope. Talkingaboutbirds.com.
Talk- Oh God, our branding is consistent and good. Talkingaboutbirds.com. I'm updating the copy and the outline right now. Yeah, hit us up there. And of course, tell your friends, grab people's phones and subscribe for them. Guerrilla marketing, go for it. And thank you to everyone. So excited. We got real baseball. So excited the season's going. Yeah, thank you all.
Yep. All right. So the Cardinals now have an off day and then head into the first divisional series.
Wow.
First big series of the year against the Milwaukee Brewers. Ben, how you feeling about this series?
Yeah, I mean, the Brewers are who we thought they were, right? First go through of the rotation for them, Freddie Peralta and Brandon Woodruff are really, really good at baseball. Corbin Burns got hit around a little bit. I highly doubt that is going to happen a second time through, or his second turn. So, um, you know, it's going to be difficult. The Cardinals do like batting at the Brewers ballpark, so looking forward to that. But their team has been showing up really well. New ad, Brian Anderson has already got 3 home runs for him. He was one of the late ads in the offseason and part of our free agent game. He's looked really good. Bryce Terang, Joey Weimer, a couple of their really young guys, Garrett Mitchell, have all hit really well so far. And we know it's a matter of time before Willie Adames and who's their big first baseman,
Rowdy
Rowdy,
Tellez.
start. I think Rowdy
Yeah.
Tellez hit a mammoth home run last night. So those guys are starting to heat up a little bit. The team is looking good. I think the Cardinals can handle the young hitting crew, but the pitching it's stout. It's scary. We'll kind of see what happens there. I
Yeah.
don't know if all these starters have been announced just at this time, but we're going to get a couple of those 3 big meetings at the top.
Yeah. So Burns is actually pitching today and has already completed his start, and he got lit up again. So
Oh,
we'll
it's
enjoy
over.
that. Yep,
Yeah.
he went 4 and a third, giving up 6 earned runs on 7 hits and 2 walks. So
Wow.
we probably won't get Burns, but I expect we'll get Woodruff and Peralta at the
Yeah.
least. And but if I can laugh at the Brewers for a moment, did you see this kind of went around online? They had for opening day, they had a flyover. They had a
Oh, yes.
some
Yeah.
military jet come real low over the stadium, but their roof was closed.
Idiot.
Stupid Brewers. So yeah, they're looking good though, as we expected. Ben and I both predicted the Cardinals and the Brewers to likely be 90 plus win teams this year. And they've got a lot of things that are clicking for them early. Obviously, I'm sure
Yeah.
they're worried about Corbin Burns, but it is only 2 starts. And, maybe he's still reeling from his arbitration case.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure that's what it is. But
same.
yeah, we won't be foolish and write him off. He's got a pretty good resume. I'm sure he'll
Yeah,
be just fine. But we'll take
not
it for
bad.
now. Well, any disadvantage for the Brewers, as long as everyone's healthy, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And after that, the aforementioned 3-game series against the Rockies, which Ben and I will be at all 3 games of. I
Yeah.
think, Ben, I know you got them already. You can maybe describe one of the games. We're going to be behind home plate, right? How far back are we?
We got fourth or fifth row, somewhere around there.
Okay.
It's
So
a
if you see
little
a
bit on
couple
the
of ding
Rockies side.
dongs,
Yeah.
so you'll see a couple ding dongs maybe when the camera goes a little wide on the batter's box.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So keep
if
an
you're
eye
a
out
Denver
for us.
fan listening, throw something at us, attack us physically. Let us know.
Yeah.
We want to hear from the fans. Um, but yeah, looking forward to that.
uh,
We got we got good seats. We're bottom bowl. They come once a year. I spend a little extra money on it. It's fun.
yeah. So what can we expect from the Rockies? Ben, you're a diehard Rockies fan. I know, you know, big year
It
for the Rockies. What can we expect?
Yeah, this is the part of the season where I'm watching the Rockies too much, and immediately reminded how terrible they are. They've been bad. They've been bad to start the season. CJ Crone is hitting a little bit of. He's got some power, and that's really about it. I mean, they don't. They the Cardinals should just absolutely wipe the floor with him. Elhirius Montero hasn't really been hitting. Jerks and Profar obviously had a weird offseason. He's looked bad to start. Chris Bryant has looked bad to start, still hasn't hit a home run. Mike Moustakas has not found the fountain of youth yet. And I don't know. I will say Ryan McMahon, he's good. He's been playing well so far. He is moved position again, took him out of his gold glove position, and they put him at second base. Just a team that confounds and confuses. That's the position player side. On the pitcher's side, Kyle Freeland has looked okay to start the year. I don't know if you saw this, but he made a fantastic play in San Diego and had a pretty solid start as well. I think he's a big question mark for the Rockies this year. Is he going to be good? Is he going to be consistent? And then when you go down to Herman Marquez, he's doing that thing that he does where he doesn't know where his 97-mile-an-hour fastball is going, and it ends up in the middle of the plate and people hit it. I saw Xander Bogaerts hit something to left field in the Padres stadium, which it's pretty deep up there in like center left, second deck, like just under the scoreboard. And I mean, that's what happens when you're Herman Marquez and you leak your fastball middle in. It's just they're a bad team. They're I think they're the second worst team in baseball. All that to be said, the Cardinals need to come in and just pound them for 3 games.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be the first series against a bad team. The Brewers, we'll see how that goes. And then hopefully it can be a nice, refreshing 3-game set in Colorado. We'll be there running on the field, throwing pitches in that stupid game that we've committed ourselves to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought of this. The pitching, and I can't think of the guy's name right now, but the pitching machine that we'll be playing on was the same pitching machine that the guy who got signed by the A's, was it last year or the year before? He was
Oh, right.
caught. There was a video of him throwing like 95 on that, and then he got signed by the A's like the next day.
Here we
Um,
go.
we'll see what
Here's my
happens.
chance. Hey, Zach Greinke threw like a 44-mile-per-hour pitch, and everyone loved it.
Great point.
I feel like I
I've
bring a
nothing.
Greinke vibe to
Oh,
the
you're so
league.
thoughtful. Yeah, you're methodical in your approach. There should be oral histories written about the way in which you approach the game.
I meant deeply uncomfortable to be around. So.
Oh, okay. Then yes. As somebody who spends too much time talking to you, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So should be a good couple series. I think that's everything from a Cardinals side that we wanted to talk about. So should we get into some league news?
Let's do it. So yeah, let's start off. So I think really like the first thing I wanted to talk about was just like we have a week of the new rules happening. Holy cow, this is
Mhm.
going on. And it's kind of spurred a conversation. Offense is up right now. Increased offense so far in the early season. The league slugging percentage is 413. It was 379 last year. Obviously, league wide, that is a significant change. On an individual basis, not so much. What I think is interesting is, well, is it the pitchers are being timed, obviously, so they're feeling a little more rushed, so their pitches aren't as perfect as maybe they would prefer them? Or is it what Alex Cora is positing when he said in an interview yesterday, the ball is flying at Fenway. I've never seen anything like it. And he went on to imply or to question which ball MLB was
Here we
using
go.
this year. First
Oh,
week,
man. Nothing I
I
love more than talking about the ball. What do we got this
well,
year? We got the juice ball, we got the dead ball. What are we
I'll tell
talking
you
about?
what. If we're playing this Manfred time ball, no shift timed ball, and then we bring in the Manfred juice ball, like this is his dream, right? This is what he wants: is home runs everywhere, quick pace, and no shift. I'm curious. I think this is something we'll pay attention to as the years goes on. The year goes on. I will be paying attention. I care about this at least. Which ball
Yeah.
are we using? Because I feel like it's just underreported last year. The fact that the MLB basically admitted that certain balls were used in certain situations last year. And I feel like that kind of got swept under the rug. So we'll see. Obviously, there's a bunch of nerds that understand like aerodynamics and the way in which the ball interacts with the air and air pressure, and they'll explain it to us, and we can
Yeah.
hopefully read it and make sense of what they're saying. But I don't know. Alex Cora is a smart guy, a cheater, but a smart guy. And I don't know. When he says something like that, it's somewhat interesting. It should also be noted the Red Sox have gotten pounded this season by like the Orioles went in, just
Yeah.
destroyed them. So it could be like, wow, our pitching isn't good. I need to say something.
I need to say
Um,
something. Yeah,
I
like, it's
hope
not
this
us,
isn't
it's
real.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not you, it's
Yeah.
me.
Um, yeah, I mean, if it really is the juiced ball, we're in for probably a pretty offensive heavy year, which would make sense
Yeah.
if they're doing all this marketing, they're doing all this stuff to like get people to watch games, and then they go in. Maybe the last few years were experiments on what ball should be
Yeah.
used during the, and here we are now. We've got juiced balls and we've got timers on everything. So games are going to be high scoring and over fast. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I have some issues with that, but I could see why that would be appealing if your objective is to try to make the game more action oriented and
Yeah.
more dramatic. Um, I guess we'll see. I am so a week now into full rules in Major League games. I think generally I am happy to call it a success. The shorter games have been, I think, good. We had an hour and 50-minute game yesterday with the Sandy Alcantara complete game shutout, which was wild that a baseball game could be done in well under 2 hours. I will say, like, I'm not the first to share this concern, but having watched a shit ton of baseball in the last week, I could see it more directly that I do worry about pitcher health and longevity in this sort of new world. Those cool down periods, especially later in the game, I do think don't just serve a purpose of like the strategic element and like the dramatic element, but also just it really hurts to throw a ball. Trust me, I know. And
Wow.
I think that cooldown, might be good for guys. And so I'm wondering, I'm hopeful that it doesn't lead to more injury. You know, I my big theory of baseball is that every pitcher should only go 3 innings and you should just have like your entire team should just be a bullpen.
It's the
I
dumbest thing
think
I've ever heard.
we could be marching towards that with rules like this, but I don't know. It's all pure speculation. I think we won't know that until maybe multiple years of these new rules
Yeah.
to understand what is the health implication. Or it'll be like July and everyone's rotation is going to be shattered.
Yeah, I mean, this has existed in the minor leagues though, so I think we would know, but you're right. Well, it's a different
Yeah.
level of
They're
competition. It's more
children down
games.
there.
We'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah, and to kind of to add on to what you're just saying. So yeah, like you said, there was a game under 2 hours this week. Twins Marlins 158, and I thought this would be fun. If you have a guess of what the shortest 9 inning game of all time, do you have a time guess on what you think that might be?
Hour 20.
Hour 20. So New York had 6 runs versus Philadelphia 1 runs. This was in 1919.
Of
The
course.
game was 51 minutes long.
Nice.
The
Get it in
second
and get out.
the second shortest game, St. Louis versus New York as well, 1926, 55 minutes. Now, that's not modern era. The modern era record, or at least slightly more modern, in 1944, Boston and Cincinnati, it was a 2-0 game, was 115.
Okay.
It's
That was
completely
pretty close,
unbelievable.
at least on modern. Yeah, that's
So
really interesting.
And I brought that up because I thought, like, this isn't completely crazy. Like, baseball has been here before. Obviously, the athletes and the game and everything like that are completely different. But I think it's interesting to add context that, like, it's still slower than it was at certain times, even though those times are 80 years
Yeah.
ago.
Actually, but no, I was going to bring up a similar thing. Not that long ago, comparatively speaking. So the average game time right now is now matching the average game time of the 1981 season.
Yeah.
So like 80s baseball, as far as rules and all that, like not that different than baseball of 3 4 years
Yeah.
ago, right? That's truly modern era baseball. And so some of the criticism or some of like the feedback from the older generation that led to these changes is that like this slow pace of baseball is a relatively new thing, and
Yeah.
that's true, right? So we're really just getting back to the speed of baseball from like the 70s and early 80s. Now,
Yeah.
whether that is good or not, is an entirely different thing. Like I think, we it's kind of, we don't really need to relitigate like the
Yeah.
value of longer baseball games. It's done now. It's been decided. But like, yeah, I think it is helpful to remember that. Yeah, we're actually only going back to like game times of the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. And all that to be said, MLB streaming viewership was up 42% on opening day. So take that for
Nice.
whatever it is. But that's a big number. That's a big increase. We'll see how viewership goes on throughout the year.
Yeah.
I think my early read on this is we're going to look back at this and say this is when baseball changed for the better. This is why the sport is in a better spot than it was. Because you can't tell me watching a game in the middle of July last year that went 4.5 hours was fun. Maybe fun in the moment, but not in the abstract and out loud. Out loud. Anyways, moving on. A little more crazy news. Anthony Rendon grabs a fan by the shirt collar and tries to slap him in Oakland. After the fan yelled some obscenities at him, Anthony Rendon got a 5-game suspension that was then lowered to a 4-game. I got a lot of opinions on this. If you're going to say something, be ready for a very strong athlete to maybe react poorly. Also, Anthony Rendon, maybe chill out, bro. Like
Yeah.
you're fine. You're in Oakland. Everything's going to be okay. But if you're going to say something, you better either be higher up in the stands where he can't reach you, or I don't know, be ready.
Yeah. I think it can be both sides can be wrong.
Yeah,
Rendon should not attack a fan, but also like everyone's human, and
yeah,
you don't need to yell those sorts of things to an athlete. They are people too, and are undoubtedly feeling worse as the person who did bad than
Yeah.
you as a fan for having to watch that bad performance. Like, it is there. It's worse for them.
Yeah.
Except for that they're making millions and millions of dollars, but still, that's a whole other
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, like, don't be a dick, but also, Renaud, uh, you know, have some chill.
Yeah. It's so funny because I think of him as this like pretty mild mannered dude from Texas,
Yeah,
not a grab the fan by the collar
it's been
and
a rough few
threaten
years
him.
for Rendon, other than having been paid hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah,
Outside of
it's
that,
yeah,
on
check the
the
bank
field, he's
account, bro. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyways, in much more important news, very good news for the MLB PA, they have agreed to a CBA in between minor league players, Major League Baseball Players Association, and MLB. First CBA agreement for the minor leagues ever. This is absolutely groundbreaking, and pay across all levels is essentially going to double. Which means for most of those players, they'll make a bit more of a living wage. And I think what is a little more special is there's actually only going to be about 6 weeks a year where these guys are not getting paid.
yeah,
Now, it's still, I don't think it's enough money, in my opinion, it's not a livable wage. But if you have your food and your rent and everything taken care of for 6 months of the year, you're getting paid for the majority of the year. It's definitely a much better situation than it was. And
yeah,
now that the MLBPA, or the Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball will be negotiating together in future CBA agreements, you have to imagine they have more power, and the MLB and all their money and lawyers and everything like that will be fighting for the folks in the minor leagues. So I think that's a massive change. I think it's far too little, far too late, but it is a big step in the right direction. So
yeah.
happy about that. Good for them. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, it should be more, but it's hard to argue with double.
Yeah.
Like, at least this wasn't like, hey, we're doing a 20% increase. Like, if you look at
Right.
the market, most people get. It's like, at least it's double. Like, that's
Yeah.
most people will be happy with their wages being doubled, even
Yeah.
if it still puts you at a level that is too low. I think it is a really good start to fixing a real problem with the league.
Yeah. Yeah, and just
Yeah,
like
so
the
good
the
for them.
structural nature of them having to organize and fight outside of the MLB union, which has,
Yeah.
again, all the money, all the resources, all the power. It just makes sense, and I think it's great.
Uh, Question that I think has to be asked. We just said that we think these rule changes are signaling like a sort of a turning point for baseball. The CBA for minors is huge and a very good thing, like, objectively good thing. Is Rob Manfred a good MLB commissioner?
um, I th- he is this what he's doing right now is the most positive change baseball has seen in our lifetimes. And I think this makes him good. I will say, like, it needs to be recognized, though, the MLB commissioner is not the MLB commissioner. He is a stooge for the owners.
Yeah.
And that is it. Um, so with that caveat put on top of it, yes, I think this one change or what he's done this year is impactful enough, and good enough for the game that you can say he is good. Um, but I want to be very clear. He's a stooge for the billionaires, and
Yeah.
I'm not like a fan or anything now. Um,
Yeah.
but you know what? As soon as he got onboarded, he said this is what he was going to do. He did it, and I think so far so good. But we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's just we have been hating on Rob Manfred for years. And I think, it's important that we are consistent here and
Like
and and acknowledge that this is good.
owners don't care how Rob Manfred is perceived, but I'm almost surprised just for MLB as a product, they don't get like hire Mark DeRosa as the quote unquote commissioner and then have somebody like Rob Manfred behind the scenes doing all the
Yeah,
lawyer attorney rigmarole. And having Mark DeRosa be or somebody like that shape be the
sure.
salesperson for the game. Because that's my problem with Rob is that he can't sell the game. Obviously, he is good at the business side and making the owners more money. So, you know, it's just
Yeah.
two different things. And if fans expect one thing and the MLB owners expect another thing, and they're not aligning. That's just how it is.
Mark DeRosa, great smile, American hero.
Right? But if you're sending him over to UK to talk about the Cubs Cardinals series, hey, people will like that. If you send Rob Manfred over, people are going to be like, who is this worm? Why is he on my
Yeah,
television?
he's practicing his golf swing without a golf in his hand or without a
Yeah,
club in
without
his
a
hand.
golf in his
Yeah,
hand.
without a
Yeah.
golf in his hand. Isn't that what those things are called? You hit
Yep.
the golf ball with the golfs.
Man, your
Yeah.
athleticism, it's just really coming out in this episode.
Thank you. I think that's everything, right? So,
That's all we got. Yeah.
all right, we're gonna wrap up this episode with a little game. If you're new to the show, we play games at the end of the episode most of the time, and we're going back to a favorite. Ben, are you ready? It's time for another episode, another edition of Who Is This Guy?
Who is this guy?
Bring
All
it.
right.
I'm in mid-season
So,
form, baby.
if you're new to the show, the way this works, I have a set of facts about a former or current St. Louis Cardinal.
Wow.
It'll always be someone who played for the St. Louis Cardinals. The facts begin uh, very vague and will become increasingly specific. Ben has to guess after each fact is revealed. Do 4 or 5 facts. By the end, I'm basically giving it away. So, Ben, you had a rough stretch there for a little while with this game, but last time we played it, you got it on the very first fact.
Yeah. If this is
So,
your first episode listening, just remember what Nate just said there. I got it on the first one. So I'm
yeah.
very smart.
Wow. Okay. So,
No?
here we go. First one. This player was born on November 26th, 1985 in Galveston, Texas.
November 21st, 1985, Galveston, Texas. Okay.
November
Trying to think.
26th, but yes.
26. Okay. Big old Texas boy.
Yeah.
A little older than myself. He played on the Cardinals. My first guess, I'm not sure if this is accurate or not. Where was Miles born? I'm gonna say my dear friend of the pod, Lance Lynn.
No. Good guess, though.
No. Okay.
It is not Lance Lynn.
All right.
All right. This player has played for 3 different teams: the
Okay.
Yankees, the Padres, and the Cardinals.
Yankees, Padres, and Cardinals. Okay, that makes it a lot easier, I think. Texas boy, older than me. Yankees, Padres, Cardinals. Matt Carpenter. Let's go.
Yeah, you got it. I thought that might be too easy because
That's
he's
too
only
easy.
played for
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's a
Well, okay.
superstar. He has a huge place in my heart. Come on now. Also, I
Yeah.
rule, you suck.
Well, I'm always trying to find a balance with these games, but hey, good job.
Thank
You
you.
got it, Matt Carpenter. Here's the rest of the stats. Led the league in hits in 2013, doubles in 2013 and 2015, walks in 2014, and assists from third base in 2014. And then if you somehow hadn't have gotten it by then, my last fact was currently looks like he's auditioning for a live action Mario movie.
Hey, that could be Trent Grisham right now too.
But he was
Have
not
you
a
seen
Cardinal.
that
So
Trent Grisham? Oh yeah, okay, good point. Not yet.
not, Yeah, he seems like a guy who would end up being a Cardinal.
I don't know. I like him.
Yeah. Having a good start to the year.
Yeah.
Remember
Hit
when
ball hard.
that ball went right under his glove for the Brewers, and then they traded him like 2
Yeah.
months later?
Yeah. For Urias,
Whoops.
it was a good trade. Yeah, Urias is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that went out with a whimper. Nice job, Ben. Good game.
I rule.
All right. Hey, if you have an idea for a silly game or something that we should do on the show, let us know. We are always open to hearing ideas and different things. Ben's making a very strange face at the camera right now at me. We'll be back next week, as always, with another episode. Please check out the patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Get in that bird score. We want to talk to you. Tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your grandparents, tell your kids, tell your dog. We out here. Oh no, it's getting worse.
Just stop.
Thank you, everybody. And until next week, go Cardinals.
TalkingAboutBirds.com. 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 I'm bringing big creep energy to the show.
Yeah, you got your hair slicked back.
Yeah, I got my hair slick. I got a haircut on Saturday. First one in about 6 months. Let's go.
I also got my hair cut.
Oh, no one can tell.
Yeah. Here we go.
Looks like the poop emoji.
Fuck you. All right, here we go.